Hi everyone, good evening. Miki Jacobs here. Welcome to Angel Chat. Another beautiful evening here in Southern California, Thursday afternoon, and I hope you are all well and thank you for joining in as always. I thought today we can talk about the soul perspective on what's happened, how the soul view the funeral and the body, and I like to do that to kind of gather questions or email or topic that come up in readings and present a challenge to people or present a kind of information that people need to gather. So I thought that would be a good topic to talk about today. I found, unfortunately, sometimes that after a loved one cross over, it appears as if the family can indeed get into pressure or stressed out as to what to do with the body, what type of funeral to do, whether it is cremating the body or do a casket, because of course not every passing or not every loss the family is organized as to what it is to do with the body. Sometimes, unfortunately, the person die abruptly. So I like to tell people that from the perspective of our soul, when we cross over, we do not care at all as to what it is we're going to do with the body. It doesn't matter from our soul as to if it's cremated, if it's grave, what type of stone we're going to do. Actually, when I channel spirits that come through in reading, they sometimes the spirit would joke about as to why did you spend so much money on a stone? Save the money, which is always such a lovely and loving thing to say to a seeker or to a client that come to me for a reading. So when we cross over, although we have great respect to the body that we just exit, that the soul just disconnect from, because the body did indeed serve the soul for the length of the incarnation, whatever amount of years we were here on earth. So there is a great respect to the physical body from the perspective of the soul, but the soul, our soul, human soul, do not care anymore as to what customary custom or what we do with the physical body. So therefore, funerals or memorial or anything that has to do with certain culture or certain family belief or certain religion belief is all that has to do with planet Earth custom, with the fact that we want to perhaps prolong some sort of a tradition or something like that. But it has nothing to do with the preference of the soul. It is important to know because, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, sometimes that's cause great amount of stress that already obviously losing someone that we love, specifically if the person is young and their life cut short abruptly. So the last thing you want as a family is to add to the stress of the loss and to make the grief even heavier. So be certain that you cannot go right or wrong when it's come to what to do with the body, what kind of funeral, if it's cremated or if it's a casket, what kind of casket, how much money you put in the funeral, how many people come in the funeral. So like any other topic in Angel Chat, it's always important for me to teach you the perspective of the soul, specifically on something so important, because some people perhaps feel regret that they didn't follow what the family used to do, or perhaps they do not believe in cremation, or do not believe in casket, or didn't put enough effort, or enough time, or enough money on the memorial, or on the funeral, or on the stone. A lot of people come to me that perhaps the stone was not fancy enough, because it's obvious that they mix the opinion of the personality, of course, with the one that matters, which is the perspective of our soul. When we die, when we shed the physical body, we go back home. We already have a great celebration. So the celebration of the life happen in the spirit world. What we do here is merely customary to planet Earth. Also, it's important for me to emphasize that the soul, any soul, no matter what was the cause of death, even a tragic cause of death, we're going to pick in the future, in the near future, I was thinking of doing a topic about the time of death as to the reason behind time of death, specifically when a person is young. But for you to know that no matter what was the cause of the passing, even if it's an accidental, even if it's tragic, when we go home, when our soul go home, that's when the real celebration starts. That is when we free again. We shed that dense physical body. That is when we meet our beautiful spirit guide and our beautiful family and pets and everyone that left us or one that we experienced other previous life with. So what it is important to the soul is for us to celebrate the life that the person lived here. Celebrate the good times. Don't emphasize on the last day that perhaps when the person was ill or the last vision that you saw of the body, whether it is the funeral home or whether it's unfortunately in the hospital. Don't allow your mind to fixate on that. That is great. That is the actually something that caused the soul great sorrow, great pain, if you will, although a pain is different than the one that we suffer here. But souls don't like that. They don't like to come to their own funerals, which is very common with human soul, to join the funeral. They want to see a celebration of the life. They want people to mention their name and the great things that the person did, remember good memories, have nice food, drink, have fun, be joyful. They don't want too much grief. They don't want too much cry, too much sorrow. Now, of course, being said that, I always like to mention that spirituality doesn't mean cold. It doesn't mean that the soul do not understand the surviving friends and family that their loved one just plucked away from them abruptly. So of course there is a room to grieve, of course there is a room to be sad, but I believe that if you look at the perspective of the soul on what's happened at the time of death, on what's happened on a funeral, what to do with the body, where to bury the body, near loved one, not near loved one. The soul have no preference for that whatsoever, other than don't fight over me. Don't get stressed over me. Grieve over me if you need to do, if the body sense that it's need to cry. I mean, cry is a good release, a good releaser, a good expression of grief, of course. But it's need to be always make sure that you remember the good time, the memory, and not that only the time of death. So that is very important, and I see different over the years between people that understand the perspective of the soul on funeral, on the time of death, on the emphasis on the celebration of the life and not only the crossing. I see the difference that the grief indeed can be lighter, the process can be shorter, which why it is I'm trying to teach you as to how to look at that. Also, a lot of people feel perhaps guilty that they don't go to the grave too much and they don't visit the grave. And my answer to them as a medium, of course, that there is no one there. Of course, I mean, if you feel good having a great, beautiful stone, perhaps with a nice few spiritual word on it as to the person that crossed over, I suppose that's great for you. For the human being, the soul is free and happy and in peace, no matter how it's crossed over. Obviously, we go back to our energy, to our true nature as an energy being. So if you feel that this is maybe a connector for you to go to the grave, and I suppose you can do that. No one is there. The soul actually is outside looking at the grave with you, which is kind of quite fascinated for me to see if I do happen to go to funerals or I do happen to drive by funerals and I see the souls themselves standing by the family member, try to help them overcome the grief. So obviously the soul is outside that grave. So again, is it okay to go to grave? Sure. Of course it's okay to go to the graveside if you feel connected, but that same connection that you feel when you're there in the grave, you can have it from your own home. You can put a picture of your loved one, a photograph. You can light a candle. You can meditate, call on your name, on their name. Connect to them that way. That is more of a healthy, or rather more spiritual way in which you can connect to your loved one. And I suppose if you want to do both, that would be okay, that would be great, but my job as a spiritual teacher is for you to climb up in awareness, and hopefully eventually you would come to a point where you don't feel you will not feel the necessity to go to the grave, or if you have any ounce of regret about the funeral or amount of people or what's happened or the food, just be certain that what the soul wants is for you to celebrate their life, to celebrate whether it was 10 years or whether it was 90 years. Celebrate the life. I also thought of kind of putting this thing about viewing the body. I know that a lot of people actually ask me if I recommend to view the body after death, and the answer to that is no. I do not recommend seeing the body. Once the person crosses over, once the soul exits the physical body, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, then there is a disconnection between the soul and the body. The body did its job and it was done. And in the next incarnation, the soul would choose another shell that would serve that lifetime. So therefore, once the energy, the soul that give life to the physical body, once it's exit the physical body, there is no really need to see the body without that energy with it. The body don't look the same. I know a lot of people email me that wasn't even my loved one. It didn't even look like him or her. Precisely because the energy, the light, the chi, the energy that gives life to the body is not there anymore. So again, if you feel that it is a closure for you to see the body the last time, I suppose you can do it. Of course, we can do what we think would make us feel good. However, I found out over my experience that have a kind of doesn't really have a good effect on people once time continue. So to sum up this topic, I would like you to take that from this topic. Once your loved one cross over, concentrate on the soul. Grow spiritually, understand where it is we're going after that. Concentrate on the beautiful life that they have it. Concentrate on the concept that we go where we meant to go. And even if accident happen, the soul also grow from that. So no one die in vain. There is always a reason as to why we cross over, when we cross over, and how we cross over. So use any passing of your loved one as opportunity to grow. Disconnect from anything that is more physical, because that would make your grief process even slower and heavier, and concentrate on what it is that the soul wants you to do. It wants you to celebrate the life, and as for any custom for after death, go with what it is that you feel, but it's absolutely not necessary. You can keep your loved one in your heart. You can call on your name. They're right there by your side, not in the grave. So thanks a lot. I hope you gather some information that will be helpful for you if you're grieving or if you will experience a loss in the future, and I will hope that that would help you overcome it. So thank you very much. Have a fantastic weekend tomorrow, and I will see you next week. Bye.